Hi, let's take a look at why and how I converted this pink Atlas vintage sewing machine to hand cranked operation. First, the why. I bought this sewing machine off of Craigslist a couple of weeks ago. I always wanted a pink machine, and when I got to see it, of course, as often happens, it was in rather rougher condition than I would have liked. The motor looked like this. This is pretty common that someone has cut the wires in order to remove the motor and the machine from a cabinet. And you can see that just splicing in a new wire wouldn't be possible because the insulation is totally cracked all the way up to the point where it goes into the motor. So fixing this is going to require a total rewiring job, and that's a skill set that I don't have yet. It's a very nice motor. It's a 1.2 amp motor, which makes it a strong, capable motor. We couldn't buy a replacement, certainly in this color, and really it would be difficult to find one of this quality. So putting a new motor on didn't seem like a good option for me. But then I remembered that I have a replacement hand crank and spoked wheel set, which I was using on another machine. It's a Singer 128, an old type of machine with they call it a bobbin shuttle. It has a long barbell looking thing for a bobbin. Those can be great machines. Mine, maybe it needed some replacement parts, or maybe there was something else I was missing, but I was never able to get it sewing well. So I didn't mind taking the hand crank off of that machine and putting it onto the pink machine. So what do you need if you want to do a project like this? First of all, the machine itself needs to be a machine with an external motor. The motor would have been mounted just like this with a belt. There are some external motor machines made by Singer which are not driven by a belt but are driven directly by gears. It may be possible to retrofit those for hand crank use, but that's not what we're talking about today. Also, you'll need to come up with a spoked hand wheel. The original hand wheel that was on this machine is solid. The hand crank requires the spoked wheel, which has spaces for this little finger that goes in between the spokes to actually drive the cranking motion. So, the first step, I have another machine here to show you. The first step, if we want to remove the existing solid hand wheel and the motor on this machine would have been mounted right here. I would just loosen the screws that were holding the mounting bracket and remove that, and the motor would just come right off. If there's a belt, I would slip the belt off, and then this part of the machine here is called the stop motion knob. There's a little set screw that you loosen. You'll need a small screwdriver, and then just twist off this central shiny portion carefully as you get it loose, because underneath this screw part there's a washer, and the washer has two little prongs. I call them ears. And you just want to notice the position of the ears. There are two slots that the ears fit into, and with most machines the ears are kind of pointing out just a little bit. I don't really see that on this washer so much, but if your ears are pointing out, then you'll just want to reassemble the new hand wheel with the washer in place with the ears pointing out. So I take the washer off for the moment, and then I can just slide off the solid hand wheel and put it to the side. I may want to add a little bit of oil, a little bit of lubricant just on this portion to slide on the new wheel. The reason I'm showing you this on a second machine rather than on the pink machine is because the reproduction hand wheel fit on quite tightly and required a little bit of coaxing with a mallet. So I left that in place and just showed you how you would remove the hand wheel on another machine. Okay, so once you have the hand wheel off, you will replace it with the reproduction spoked hand wheel. You just push it on, or if you need to tap it a little bit with a mallet to get it in place. If you need to tap it a lot, then you would actually want to machine out the interior of it in order to make it fit. I did that somewhat with this one. I used a Dremel tool and a little sanding tip. That worked pretty well. Okay, so I put that on. I put in the washer with the little ears facing out. I reattached the screw, and then I tightened that little set screw we saw. Then it's time to put on the crank. We just attach it to what's called the motor boss here with the one screw. And then there's another screw right in the center here, which tightens down until it's just reasonably tight. This is hinged for storage inside of a case. There's just a little pin that you pull apart to put it into the operating position, and then it holds it steady. The other thing that you do with this crank is you make sure the little finger is going between one of the slots of the hand wheel, and that will drive it along. These reproduction spoked hand wheels and hand cranks are available from an eBay seller called Stitches in Time. The proprietor's name is Cindy Peters. I will tell you, this is the only set that I'm aware of that's available. It comes from China. The manufacturing isn't the fine machine work that we see on vintage sewing machines, but it works very well, and it's available at a good price. I believe that the hand wheel is about $27.50 and the hand crank is maybe another $15, and then there's shipping. So somewhere between $50 and $60 will get you this setup to convert any sewing machine with that external motor and belt driven into hand crank operation. Okay, so let's see how it does now that it's ready to be powered by hand cranking. This is a straight stitch sewing machine, so what it's going to do for us is it's going to go forward and backward. It is really suited to working with heavy materials, so I'm using, I just turned my hand crank backwards and got a tiny little snag. I'm using some heavyweight thread, so this would be good if you were doing denim or canvas. This machine is one of the fairly many vintage machines that do a good job with that kind of material. We just crank front to back. And you can see it's quite silent, very flexible in terms of where you can use it. You don't need power. You can stand up because you won't be needing to reach a foot pedal. This is a portable machine, so you could take it camping, which is not something that you could say of a treadle sewing machine. So it's kind of neat. People like them for using on boats where they're doing sail making and sail repair and may not have a huge supply of power. This machine will also go in reverse. I just flip the lever to go back forward. This machine happens to be a machine that has the class 15 hook and bobbin. So this is a very common setup, side mounted. The class 15 bobbin is readily available. It's a generic type of thing. Oh, well, I guess I'm still attached over there. But this is what the bobbin case looks like. The machine also has a low shank foot. You'll find this often, so it'll accept any low shank sewing machine accessories. And there we have it. Pretty easy project to convert a machine that wasn't working because Its motor wires had been cut and it requires rewiring into hand crank operation, and it's pink.